I'm 79 now, and I have more money in the bank than I've ever had in my life. More than when I was working, more than when I retired, more than I ever thought I'd need. And I would give every cent of it to go back to 63, when I had almost nothing, but I still had. At 63, I was terrified. My savings account had maybe $18,000. The house wasn't paid off. Sharon was still working part-time at the library because we both knew we didn't have enough. I remember lying awake at night doing the math in my head, over and over. Rent if we had to sell, groceries, medicine, the car. It never added up. And I thought, if I could just get to 70 with some cushion, maybe 50,000 saved, we'd be okay. That's all I wanted. $50,000 and Sharon next to me. Sharon didn't worry the way I did. She'd come to bed and find me staring at the ceiling, and she'd put her hand on my chest and say, "We've always figured it out." And I'd think, but what if this time we don't? What if I get sick? What if she does? What if the car dies and we can't afford another one? What if we end up in one of those places where they take everything you own just to keep you alive? I started reading everything. Retirement blogs, investment forums, YouTube videos at 2 in the morning. I learned about index funds at 64, dividend stocks at 65. I moved money around. I opened a high-yield savings account. I tracked every expense in a spreadsheet. We stopped going out to eat. We stopped the weekend drives we used to take to the coast. Sharon loved those drives. She'd pack sandwiches and we'd pull over at some lookout point and just sit there, watching the water, not saying much. I told her we'd start again once we had more saved. She said okay. She always said okay. At 65, I got my first Social Security check, $1,432. I remember opening the envelope and feeling disappointed. That's what 43 years of work gets you. $1,400 a month. Sharon's was less. She'd taken years off when the kids were small. I did the math that night. Our combined checks barely covered the mortgage and utilities. That's when I knew I had to do more. At 67, our account hit 40,000. I felt like I could breathe a little. Not all the way, but a little. Sharon wanted to take a trip. Just a small one. Maybe see her sister in North Carolina. We hadn't visited in 6 years. Her sister had called that spring. Said she missed us. Said we should come before... And then she didn't finish the sentence. Sharon showed me flight prices. $218 round trip if we booked early. I said we should wait one more year. Just one more. Get to 50,000 first, then we'd go. Sharon folded up the paper with the flight information and put it in the kitchen drawer. She never brought it up again. At 68, I moved more money into stocks. I was getting good at this. I'd learned how to read market trends, how to rebalance, how to avoid fees. Our portfolio grew faster than I expected. 67,000 at the end of that year. I showed Sharon the statement on New Year's Eve. I thought she'd be proud. She looked at it and said, "That's wonderful, honey." But her voice was flat, and I didn't ask why. She died 3 months later. 70 years old. An aneurysm. No warning. She was putting away groceries. I was in the garage. I heard something fall, and I thought she'd just dropped a bag. I didn't rush. I should have rushed. When I came inside, She was on the floor by the refrigerator. A can of soup was rolling across the tile. Green beans, the kind I always said we had too many of. The paramedics came. They worked on her for 31 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on the microwave the entire time. At some point, one of them looked at me, and I knew. You just know. I'm not going to tell you what the funeral cost. I'm not going to tell you that I paid for it easily, because by then we had $71,000 in savings. I'm not going to tell you that I barely noticed the money leaving the account. After she died, I didn't know what to do. The house was too quiet. I'd wake up and make 2 cups of coffee before I remembered. I'd set the table for 2. I'd start to say something and turn my head, and no one was there. People told me to stay busy, so I did what I knew how to do. I kept saving. I kept checking the accounts, moving money, reading articles, optimizing. It gave me something to focus on that wasn't the empty side of the bed. At 71, the house was finally paid off. I'd made the last payment in August. Sharon never got to see it. We'd talked about that moment for years, what it would feel like to own it free and clear. I thought we'd open a bottle of wine, sit on the porch, maybe even cry a little. Instead, I got the letter from the bank, filed it away, and ate a frozen dinner in front of the TV. At 73, I had $90,000. At 75, $112,000. People at the senior center started asking me for advice. How'd you do it? On just Social Security? I showed them my spreadsheets, my strategies. They thought I was smart, disciplined. One woman called me inspiring. I went home that day and sat in Sharon's chair. I don't know why I sat there. I never sit there. And I just cried. At 76, my daughter came to visit. She lives 4 hours away, works full-time, has 2 teenagers. We don't see each other much. She walked through the house and I saw her looking at things. Sharon's books still on the shelf. Her coffee mug still in the cabinet. The blanket she crocheted still folded on the couch. My daughter didn't say anything about it. We had dinner. Spaghetti. I'm not a good cook. And then she asked how I was doing. I said fine. She asked about money, if I needed anything. I told her I was doing better than ever, actually. She looked confused. At 77, I hit $160,000. I remember looking at the number on the screen and thinking, I did it. I beat the fear. I won. And then I sat there in the silence of the house and I thought, now what? No one believed me when I started telling people. My daughter didn't believe me. She thought I was confused. She actually asked if I was getting scammed. When I showed her the statements, she went quiet. Then she said, Dad, why didn't you and Mom ever do anything? I started to explain about being careful, about the market, about security. She cut me off. She said, Mom wanted to see the Grand Canyon. She told me that once. Did you know that? I didn't know that. At 78, I thought about selling the house. It's too big for one person. 3 bedrooms, a yard I don't use. But where would I go? And what would I do with Sharon's things? So I stayed. I'm 79 now. Last month, my account crossed $183,000. I still check it every morning, right after coffee. I don't know why. It's not like the number means anything anymore. There's a restaurant Sharon always wanted to try. It's downtown, French place. She saw it on some show. She cut out a review from the newspaper and put it on the fridge. It stayed there for 3 years. I kept saying we'd go for our anniversary. We never did. The restaurant is still open. I drove past it last week. I could afford it now, easily. I could order anything on the menu and not even think about the price. But who wants to sit alone in a nice restaurant? Who wants to order one plate and look across at an empty chair and have the waiter ask if someone's joining you? I could take a trip now. I could go anywhere. France, Italy, North Carolina to see Sharon's sister, the Grand Canyon. But when I look at flights, when I start to book something, I just think, who would I tell about it when I got home? Who would I show the pictures to? Last Tuesday, I found that piece of paper in the kitchen drawer, the one with the flight information to North Carolina. 6 years old now. $218. I could have bought those tickets 20 times over with the money I have now. I held that paper for a long time, and then I put it back in the drawer. At 63, I thought the danger was running out of money. I thought poverty was the thing that would break us. I thought if I could just build that cushion, if I could just get the number high enough, we'd be safe. We'd be happy. We'd have time. And I was so focused on that number going up that I didn't see what was actually running out. Sharon used to say, "Money's just paper, sweetheart." And I'd think, she doesn't understand. She doesn't see the danger. She doesn't get it. She got it. Time doesn't wait for your portfolio to mature. It doesn't care if you hit your target. It doesn't send you a warning when you're running low. I doubled my savings after 65. I tripled it. And I lost everything that mattered before 70. I'm 79 now. And I'm rich. And I'm alone. And I would give every penny for one more weekend drive to the coast. One more dinner that cost too much. One more trip I was too afraid to take. If you're lying awake right now doing the math, adding it up, trying to figure out when you'll finally have enough, I just want you to ask yourself something. What are you waiting to be safe for? And who are you planning to spend it with when you finally get there?